Good morning, everybody. I am Dr. Amanda Filtane. Primarily, what SARS knows is that I'm a lecturer at the University of Cape Town. I do need to declare everything else because it is not a formality. So a big disclaimer before I start again. A bit jet-lagged. I arrived recently from Canada and tried to set an attachment this morning. I'm like, where do we attach now again? The brain is like, you should be still asleep. But the body's like, oh, you should be awake. So there's like a body-eye type of thing happening. So I do apologize if I forget my last name. This morning I'll be taking you through a very theoretical type of setting the scene. I do hope to make reference of what I've studied in the PhD, which was on construction business models. But that PhD was actually informed by a Master of Philosophy that I did prior, which was purely on building information modeling. So as I was studying building information modeling for the Masters, most businesses would say, but why do you want us to get digital? What's the bottom line effect? So spent a whole 3 years trying to understand, do you know digital efficiency, digital this? It's going to make your processes smarter, this. And all business leaders were interested in was, Amanda, tell us how it affects the bottom line. All we see from our consultants within the firm was how we need to make this huge capital investment. But nobody is coming back with pure numbers on how we can get returns on those investments. So the PhD was largely centered with a business model approach, but at the bottom of it, it was informed by how digitalization can help businesses transform and improve the bottom line. All right. So I'm seeing one of my besties who moved to Gauteng, and I didn't even know she was going to be in this event. So there's a bit of a hey. So yes, I'll be taking you through business models. I won't go much into the jargon of business models themselves, but I do invite you to read up on the other detailed portions of the slides if they'll be shared later. I'll take you through the theoretical framework to say, what are the sources? So I always introduce theory when people go, oh, there goes academics and their theories as if they are so abstract from life. So I've got to learn that theories are actually brilliant, especially when you want consistent performance. Because what a theory does is that it helps you guarantee the result, right? We derive a theory from all the research that we do, and if you apply it, just like simple mathematics, you're bound to get the same results. So 1 + 1, no matter where you are in the world, it should equal to 2. So that's what theories are about. So I will share with you some of the theories that I used that inform the business model framework, and you can see how you can use those theories in your own businesses so that they become a 1 + 1, but in your own context, right? I will share the dynamic capabilities in terms of firm sizes. We are themed on starting small, starting medium, or starting large. So I will share those firm sizes and what their opportunities are. Because if you're a small firm, you have opportunities to start in a different way than a large firm. So what do dynamic capabilities look like for small entities, medium, and large? And that's what the detail will be. That's what the majority of the presentations will be about. But at the very end, I had to read what was promised on the pamphlet. Like, all right, let me do some justice, because I did promise a coded framework on digital business models. So I will share a business model fit formula. So that formula is just a layout, and you can plug your own numbers to it, right? So I will share one of the outputs from the PhD that I did, which is a coded framework to evaluate your own business models and actually see where your value chains are and where the most money either comes in or goes out within your own businesses. So yes, South Africa's infrastructure is critical for economic growth, and we've heard in all BIM adverts that it improves efficiency, collaboration, and life cycle management, and so on. So I will move from the understanding that we know why we're here, but we may not know how to digitize. So in the introduction, the main thing I want to make clear or align is that when we talk about BIM, we're not talking about a specific tool or a specific technology. If you haven't been in such event, please let us demystify that from the very set, right? So using the business model framework, within a digital project delivery, BIM can then be defined as a value creation process. That value creation process centers around how we digitize our design, how we digitize our construction, so that it informs better operations. The means is not just to deliver a digital twin that becomes static. It is to deliver a digital twin that becomes the life of the building, even through operations. So most times, even though there's huge advancements in how we design and construct, but we still don't design and construct with the end goal of saying, how can we transfer this facility so that the operations don't look at rebars? They're not interested in rebars for facilities management. They're interested in energy efficiency and so on. So how do we even move from digital design, digital construction to inform better operational facilities that we use? Because the larger life of a building is not in design or construction, it is in operations. All right. So business models help us design value delivery, and BIM as a digital project delivery helps us with better processes. It engages or helps people work better. It is centered around people, collaboration, and so on. And most importantly, business model give us a visual view of how we do value capture. Where do we make most of our revenue? Who are our biggest clients? What are the segments? What are the channels? So within a BIM framework, we are told that if it's more efficient, it should cost better, right? So it makes no sense to me when people promise a BIM type of project, but it costs higher. I'm like, if you're faster and deliver better, shouldn't it be at least the same? Why should it cost more, but we're promising efficiency? So from a business model type of talking, the numbers don't make sense. Someone somewhere does not want to incur their actual costs, and these costs get transferred to clients, and the clients look at this and think, I can't pay for that. So if we are improving our own efficiencies as consulting and construction firms, why are we transferring the cost of those efficiencies to clients? So the business model view helps you see those types of decision making to say, actually, I'm being selfish over here. This cost is for my own operations. The efficiencies are for my own benefit. So how can I package the cost to clients better because I've improved my internal workflows? So firms must adapt their business models around this digital delivery system, aka BIM. Most of my colleagues, we started this research with 10 years back, they cringe every time we use the word BIM because it is so limited in view. What the accepted word, especially in the academic languages, is like digital delivery, because it removes this concept of a software or a technology-centered approach. It is more about designing processes that are collaborative, that are open, with a common or a single source of truth. It doesn't matter which applications are those, but it's the requirements of what those applications need to fulfill. They need to be able to talk to each other and so on. So the theory that then informed the result that I will show later is based on the resource view of the firm that says that even in equilibrium, firms differ in terms of the resources and capabilities they control. One firm and the next firm, you may have the same number of resources per se, but it is how those resources are configured that can result to, or that can lead to different results. Dynamic capabilities theory, on the other hand, says that the firm's ability to integrate, build, and reconfigure internal and external competencies to address rapidly changing environments. So yes, you may have this very highly skilled technical staff, you may have the best tools and so on, but are they reconfigurable? Are they able to not only be proactive, but also be reactive to instant changes within the market, while they also foresee what could happen tomorrow? How do we change how we do things? So it's not enough to have the best tools, the best team, but it's important to have flexibility of changing your model as you deliver. So complementary theories is strategic theory, the sources of competitive advantage. At firm level, they are found in the choice and configuration of their activities, in their resources, and in their knowledge. So we are saying here, we are operating in the construction industry, and one of its core characteristics is that it is a very competitive market. And the way I like explaining that is to say, we can't compete for the construction costs themselves on materials. Materials are standard. Labor is also standard to a certain extent. It's controlled by unions. There's fixed rates for all of those things. So if materials are all the same, we're buying from similar suppliers, and labor is controlled by union rates that are also standardized, then where is the opportunity to be different? What are we really competing on? And the main variable there has always been P&Gs. It's always been your management factor. That is the only opportunity we have as construction and consulting firms to be competitive, because everything else is standardized. Everything else the clients can get off the market. If you have your material and your labor cost, you have up to 80% of the value of the contract. We are all just playing with the rest of the 20%. And if your P&Gs are already at 22%, that should be a loss. Maths should tell us that. But if you can drag your P&Gs to 10 and 9%, that's where the competitive advantage could be. So all these numbers that I'm putting down are not just informed by my own guesses. They're informed by the formula that I will show you later that actually takes apart a construction business and says, what are you actually selling? And the outcome of that, we are selling management solutions, nothing else. And it is that management solution that we need to be competitive on. There's no other advantage. Everything else is driven by the market. This is just a little inset for you to understand more about business models, their elements, and so on. I won't dwell much into that. And this was the thesis. At the beginning of the study, I hypothesized, and at the end, I came out with a thesis that I had proven. So the thesis is that there is a significant relationship between the dynamic capabilities and organizational performance. What happens within, so these are business layers. That's where you have your head of companies. They are busy with the strategic layer. What type of markets are we going to go into? Are we happy with residential? Should we go into hospital? Should we go into mining? Should we consider this type of avenues and so on? That's where directors discuss strategies. But what we learn is that no matter the strategies, a business might say we specialize in this type of sector, but an opportunity comes and the business can't say no. The best way to make profit out of that opportunity is how you can reconfigure your existing processes to allow for this new opportunity that you've now gotten, regardless of what you had strategized. And then the performance layer is where we now try to trace, all right, we planned to have residential construction or consult in that space. We plan to have mining. We plan to have hospitals or education and all of that. What is the revenue from those strategic sectors that we've decided as a firm? You trace back. But what you realize is that part of this revenue might actually come from other opportunities that were never part of strategy. But because your team is so dynamic and reconfigurable, you were able to collect certain revenues from markets or from sectors that were never part of your strategic plan. So this layout shows us that no matter how much business can plan, the market can dictate certain opportunities that were outside your own thinking. And only those firms who are dynamic enough can take full opportunity to collect revenues from those market pressures and so on. So coming back to the theme of the day, we've got small firms, medium firms, large firms. There's always this myth that goes on like, oh, digitizing is so expensive. We're just a small firm. We can't afford these technologies. That's not the case. We can all have different strategies on how we can be optimum in our own firm sizes. This is gonna be what we are gonna do for the rest of the afternoon. So excuse if I do go a bit quick on it, but a small firm can typically be characterized by limited staff, limited budget, and often owner managed, very, very small. The dynamic capabilities that exist there is that the firm can sense niche BIM opportunities and pilot small projects. Nobody says you need to do bigger than what your firm can handle, but do best with what you can. Make efficient the systems that you already run. That's all we ask, or that's all the world asks. Do what you can with what you have. No one says go and buy expensive licenses that you can't even use to their full value because you don't even have the staff for that or the budget. So what can you do with what you have to still be operationally efficient, be digitized, and be able to contribute in the larger digitized project delivery? What is your own contribution as a plug-in to these bigger firms? As a medium firm, you may have 10 to 15 staff, dedicated project team, mid to level tech budget. What opportunities can you have? Seizing, training, process standardization, investing in common data environment and tools, because you have at least the capacity to do that. You need common data environment because you have more members there than you do there. The common data environment in a two-staff, their efficiencies can be controlled so much better because the communication channels are just in less than 10 people. But the moment you have communication channels with 50 members, that goes exponential. So you need to have your own common data environments within your medium-sized firms. When we're looking at larger firms now, you hardly find this size, especially in South African consulting environments. I classify that we operate within medium to small when it comes to consulting, even though we do larger projects. You'll see later how that is. But for larger companies who may have more than 50 staff, so to be classified as large, we may say that you do have South African-based offices, but you operate within like this international consortia, which means your processes are not only designed here, but they are multinational, right? So within such firms, very diverse, they typically have their own in-house IT, they typically have their own project management office, and they would have budget for research and development. So now we're talking more resources, more capabilities. These firms can seize more opportunities, they can transform. They typically would have new BIM departments, they already do by now. They have BIM managers, they've got integrated lifecycle services and so on. So we can see that because of the size of the firm, the strategy to transform is not the same. Firms start with where they are at. So for small businesses, there's some tips there on how you can start. I might come back here, but I want to go to the core of the coded framework. For medium-sized firms, there's some tips on how also these firms can start, like the strategies that they can employ for larger firms and so on. So coming back to the digital BIM value chains, it becomes a case of whose business is it anyway? Who makes the most money when we are all operational and we're digitized? And when we say who makes the most money, we're asking, where does value capture happen? Because whoever captures the value should then carry the cost. So trace who benefits most and see how that benefit can then be given a language to say, this is what you are buying because you are capturing this value. So you're equating the value of all this operational efficiency to the person who will benefit most from this digital transition. Sorry, that is meant to be small, by the way. So looking at how our size of entities look in South Africa, we have very few large firms, a lot of medium firms, and a lot of small firms. That's just the typo there. So this is in terms of the size of entities and the number that exists in the market. But when we look at the flip side on the order book, the large firms control most of the value of construction that happens. The medium firms, probably less than the graph shows over there. I don't think it's really that equal. And then we have small firms that have the least in terms of order book value. But the interesting part now to complement this graph is that when we trace the value networks in a business model approach, all of those firms up there, they become management consultant, even if they are contractors, because most of their work is subcontracted all the way to these firms. Why is this important? This firm that is large and promises digital efficiency to a client can never achieve that digital efficiency if it is not interested in how these small firms run. Because when we look at the value chain, who ends up executing the work, it becomes smaller firms, whether in consulting or contracting. So it is an absolute fallacy for a big firm to promise a client that we will give you digital efficiency, whereas they're not investing in the whole value chain up until the last person who will lay the brick. So how do I make these big claims? What tool did I use? This is the coded framework that I developed as part of my PhD study. It takes a whole business and it puts it into all these 9 elements and traces the value, monetary first, and then management, leadership, and so on. So in terms of the monetary tracing of the money, this is where the value is created for construction is delivered. This is what the business promises to sell. So we have a lot of consulting firms or construction firm, for example, saying, we are builders. No one in that firm knows how to lay a brick. They can't even tell you the size or the weight of a brick. But they can tell you how long it takes to create a certain dashboard. We sell dashboards. We sell management solutions. We need to be interested in how long it takes to lay that brick, which is now an artisan level, because the accuracy of how long it takes to lay a 1 square meter brick, depending on the nature of the wall, is it block, is it brick, is it, what type is it? What type of jointing is required? What type of finishing is required? All of that intelligence informs what you promise to the client in the beautiful dashboards that we see. Oh, this project is going to take us 7 months. How much of data did you take from the small firms that informs the 7 months? Then we complain that our projects are overrun, the time, we need more time, and. But when we trace it back, we see that companies are selling management solutions. The key resources that exist within a company would typically look for larger construction firms. The resources we find here, major is plant. The company would say we have resources, but the value of that resources lays in the big plant that it has. The staff would be of little complement. The key partners, now this is the interesting part in this formula, is that if a project costs 100 million, most of that value is not captured by the company. There are so many sub-consultant and subcontract agreements that are part of that value chain, meaning that the company does not fully execute with its own resources, but it distributes to its key partners. A construction firm has a set of domestic subcontractors. A consulting firm that promises multi-delivery services has got a suite of specialist MEP engineers that they work with, specialist structural, and. They're not all part of the same firm. So how do these multi-firm operations handle design delivery, construction delivery, knowing that the resources are not housed within the same firm? When you start mapping your operations in this layout, you start to see, who do I work with to deliver what I've promised to the client? What activities do I do as a firm that help us deliver what we've priced for the client? Who are the key partners? Once you map all of that out and you see the amount of money that goes out of your 100 million tender, for example, you start to see where your weight should be, where you should invest. Then you come this side and you're like, who are my major clients? Who is buying most of my services? Do you have public sector clients, private clients? They all come with their own risks when it comes to payment returns. You are able to see, not just by your own intention or by the strategic will to say, we like private sector clients because they pay on time. But this graph actually shows you who's been buying your services. and you use that to inform your next investment decision. How do your clients get to you? How do you distribute, and so on? Once you see how your clients get to you, you may invest better in how you get these clients, because you've already noted, you've done research to say, how did you find out about us? How did you get to employ us? And it is tracing of those channels that leads you to maximize more exposure to more clients and so on. And then the client segments themselves, then it's stipulate, are they private and what type of sector and. But most importantly, once you do this mapping, your revenue that you make from selling what you promise to sell should be less than what it costs you to deliver. It should be. Who captures that revenue? Because remember, now you have revenue from what you have sold, and you have cost for what it costs you to produce what you are selling. And this revenue, you will see where it goes to, because you need to make your own payments to the partners that you employ. The money in key activities and key resources is stated to stay within the firm, but the money from key partners is money that goes out of the firm. So how much money goes out? How much control do you actually have in line with the profits that will remain within the company? Not just talking income from sales. So when you do this, it complements the digital delivery process to say, actually, this is your order book, this is your value of contract, and this is your contribution to the digital budget. It is informed by the value of work that you do within a specific contract. So reflecting now on business model fit, companies, once they do this, they can then focus on skills and professionalization, identifying where their strengths are, prioritize collaborative contracting and procurement reform, invest in information management, because your business value will show you what you are selling is management, and what is being managed is information, it's flow. I promise to give you the best data that will make you decide. And to make the best decision, you need the best information, right? So we are in the business of selling information, but that information must be as accurate as possible. So firms can align processes. Standardization is important. There's no way we can collaborate without even talking the same language. So standardization is important. Procurement, regulation, policy, technology, the tools are important. Why are the tools important? Because they need to be able to speak the language themselves, the same language. So if the tools don't speak the same language, you've lost value that you need to capture. Now someone needs to clean and do clash detections, and another software reads something and something else. Value lost in just cleaning software. Okay, so to conclude, because we've proven that there is significant relationship between dynamic capabilities and performance, it is important that firms understand how they can better maximize just being digital. You didn't change your strategy in terms of what market you are saving, but you've reconfigured how you do business. And that reconfiguration in this context has got to do with how much digital efficiency you can maximize in your own operations. Thank you very much.